And that means that if you're going to be as distracted as you've been so far this period, you will continue to get crushed on future quizzes. But if you say to yourself, look, man, I don't know what I'm supposed to know, and now let me start paying attention, then I think you'll learn a whole lot and you can improve. Personally, going into the quiz, I thought that number one was going to wreck you guys, but I expected you to do really well on number two. And I think that number one was not a big deal because we haven't done too much work with it. I thought number two, the fact that you didn't do well as a group, I think that's really, really bad. You should have gotten number two correct. We have done a whole bunch of questions like number two. So I'd rather begin with number two and then work my way to number one. If we don't get to too much in the lesson today, don't worry about it, because the lesson is just to do questions like number one. And we will definitely get all the way through the quiz. And then hopefully we'll do one question from today's lesson sheet. And that's really all we're going to learn today, is more about the substitution method. Listen, on your test that you have coming up, the biggest part of the test is solving things simultaneously. And you have to do it with graphing, and you have to do it with algebra. If you can't do these two questions, you are going to have a very difficult time scoring at least a 70 on the test. Okay? So let's make sure we get better at this. Now, so let me copy the first two questions from number two down. All right? And it says 2a, actually let me do this in black. 2a minus 4b equals 16, and 5a plus 3b equals 1. Now, the good news is that I saw a lot of people realize that they should try to add these up, okay? They tried to do add these guys, add these guys, add these guys. That's good, because that is what you're going to end up doing. But we have a problem. Mr. Clark, little attention here, bud. What's the problem with just adding these guys up the way they are right now? Chelsea? Or the A's. One of the letters has to have the same amount. Otherwise, when you add them up, you still have A's left. Like, look, if I add, wouldn't I get 7 A's? And wouldn't I get a minus B? And then I would get a 15. Well, that's still two variables and one equation. And you can't solve two variables with one equation. What we taught you last week, and even a little the week before, was that when you have this situation, you need to treat it like a least common denominator. You need to treat it with least common multiples. Now, you could pair up either the A's or the B's. You can always pair up any other letter. It doesn't make a difference. The problem is this. It's better to try to do it so there are opposite signs. So the best one to get rid of, which one has opposite signs, A or B?
B.
B. So B is the one that we want to get rid of first. Now, what's the least common multiple? In other words, what number do both 4 and 3 divide into? Elizabeth? 12. So what I'm going to do is multiply the top one by 3. Now here's a trick, if you like tricks. You can always multiply by whatever's on the bottom equation. Then, what do you think I'm going to multiply the top one by? Remember, we want to get 12. 3 times 4 is 12. What do I have to multiply 3 by to get 12? 4. Look, watch me. Everybody look. Ready? 4, 4, 3, 3. You can always do that. It will always work whenever you are going to do the elimination method. What does elimination mean again? We talked about that word a lot last week. To get rid of. Very good. So we are eliminating. We're getting rid of one of the variables. Now, remember, at this point, I have to distribute. So on the top one, I get 6a minus 12b equals 48. And on the bottom one, I get 20a plus 12b equals 4. And when I add them up, I get 26a, equals 52. And then I divide by 26, and I get a equals 2. Now, what did we say eliminate means again? To get rid of. Didn't I get rid of the b's? Now remember, if I added them in the beginning, did I get rid of the b's? No, I had a minus b because they didn't have the same amount. The only way to get rid of them, to eliminate them, is to make sure you have the same amount. And the way to guarantee you have the same amount is to use the least common multiple. And a trick to get a common multiple is always to say, okay, I have opposite signs. I'm going to put this number here, and I'm going to put this number here, and then I'm going to distribute. It always works. How does it work? Always. How does it work? Always. So if you just remember to do that step, you are well, you're almost home free on elimination. You do that alone, you get half the credit for the problem. Okay, now, a equals 2, we're going to go back. I can use either equation. It does not make a difference which equation I use. I'm going to choose the bottom one because everything's positive, but it works in both of them. And a is 2, so I'm going to dump it in for the 2. What's 5 times 2? 10. So I get 10 plus 3b is 1, minus 10, minus 10. 3b equals negative 9, because 1 plus negative 10 is negative 9. I divide by 3, and I get b is negative 3. And there's my answers. A is 2, b is negative 3, and I'm done. I expected you to do well on this question. You did not. Now, we're going to be off tomorrow. Hold on a second. How many of you guys care about your math grade? How many of you guys say to yourselves, I want to do well? Well, you're going to be off tomorrow, and this will be up on my YouTube channel. So if you got this wrong, which almost all of you did, maybe 2 or 3 of you got it right, my advice to you is to try it again at home. Copy the question over, do it, and then turn the YouTube channel on and watch the video of how to do this question. And make sure that you can get it right. Because you know number 2 on the next quiz is going to look just like this. And I think you can get full credit on that one on the next quiz. Elizabeth, you had a question.
Yeah, I did it again, but I used the top one. I got negative b.
That means you did something wrong. Okay? Did you get 2 for A?
Yeah.
Okay. Then you did something wrong in your steps there. I would try, personally, I try to avoid any equation that has negatives in it because you're more likely to make a mistake with a negative than a positive. So try to pick the ones that stay positive across. If you can't, then you gotta do what you gotta do. But try to go for that. All right. Jason? Where did I get the what? Oh, what's 5 times 2? 10, and then I have to do opposites. Okay? Any other questions? All right. Personally, again, I think that you could get that down pat because we did so much work with that last week. I believe that if you didn't get this right, it's your fault. I really do. However, the next one, number 1, I think it's my fault. Okay? So let's go through number 1 now, and I'm going to do a better job of teaching you how to do this. If I have to, I will actually make a 4th quiz in this series if you don't get it down pat by the end of the 3rd one, so that we can get it done. Now, if 3/4 of the class is getting both of these questions right, and you're not, I'm not making a 4th quiz. Okay? So don't go, oh, he's going to give us 4. I can take my time to learn. No. That's just if it's taking a little bit longer. Now, 2x minus 5y equals 3. Y equals x minus 3. This is the kind of question that we started the other day in class, and then the bell rang. What do you notice that's different about this question compared to the previous question? There's a huge difference. Elizabeth?
The x and the y don't equal.
They're not lined up, right? When they're not lined up, we can't use the elimination technique. So we go to our second technique, which is called substitution. Now, what does that word mean, to substitute? We talked about that word the other day. Go ahead. To replace. Very good. And it has to be with equals. Okay? You can't, like, for instance, if you're supposed to go on a date with, who was the girl you chose? Adriana something or other? Not you, but the class chose.
Ariana Grande.
Ariana Grande, that's it. Now, you don't substitute Ariana Grande with Molly from Mike and Molly. You with me on that? right? If you substitute Ariana Grande with her exact identical twin, no complaints. Molly shows up, little different deal. Okay. Even though she's hysterical. If you ever saw the movie Bridesmaids, I just laughed for hours. You should not see that movie, you're too young. Now, 2x minus 5y is 3 and y equals x minus 3. When they don't line up, we use the substitution technique. Now, the cool thing about substitution is you don't have to do that trick with least common multiples. Do you see how a y is equal to an x minus 3? You see that? Okay. What if you were to go, now Kayla, you got the second question perfect, and you didn't get the first question. And I blame me. But Kayla, if you're at lunch and you want to use a vending machine, and it won't take your dollar bill, and the thing costs $1, what could you do to get that machine to work? I'm sorry, what?
Ask someone for help.
All right, but how are they going to help you? What are they going to do if it won't take a dollar bill? What will it change, right? So you could go to Robin and you could give her the dollar bill. She could give you 4 quarters because isn't the 4 quarters equal to the dollar bill? And then you could put the 4 quarters in the machine and you can get what you want. Well, we're going to basically do that. See, this is like a dollar bill, the y, and the x minus 3 is like 4 quarters. So I'm going to trade in this dollar bill for my 4 quarters. In other words, I'm going to trade in my y for an x minus 3. So I'm going to keep the 2, I'm going to keep the x, I'm going to keep the minus, I'm going to keep the 5, I'm going to keep the equals, I'm going to keep the 3. None of that's going to change. Everybody copy that down, but leave space here. Okay? Leave space there. Now, what was originally supposed to go in this space? A y. But I'm going to trade the y in. What am I going to trade the y in for? It says right here, what does the y equal? X minus 3. So I go in here and I put, make sure you use parentheses because it's a binomial, I put in my x minus 3. Now I have an equation with just one variable. So I distribute the negative 5 and I get 2x minus 5x, and then what's negative 5 times negative 3? Positive 15 equals 3. Is this a same side situation or an opposite side situation? Same side. So what are 2x's and negative 5x's? Negative 3x's plus 15 is 3. Now I'll go minus 15. Be careful, danger, danger, danger. That's a negative 3x equals negative 12. I divide by negative 3. You guys should be all good at this stuff. X equals 4. I did go pretty quick, but I'm going to stop now and let you catch up. Okay? I do believe you can follow everything once I get down past here. I think it's pretty easy step by step for you guys. Okay? I certainly hope you're copying all of this down. Okay? And again, I would watch the video. This is a question every kid in the room got wrong. Nobody got this question right. Some people got some credit, but nobody got it right completely. Okay, are there any questions about what I did there now that you've had a chance to look it over? All right, now the cool part about the substitution technique is once you figure out the first letter, you do the same exact thing as on the elimination. Pick either equation. I'm going to pick the bottom one because it says y equals. It doesn't get any easier than that. Y equals x minus 3. X is 4. So I go up and I dump the 4 in there. I get y equals 4 minus 3. I substitute. I swap out the 4 for the x. Y equals 1. So the second part of this is really simple. It's the first part. All of that stuff in red, that's a lot of work. But the stuff in blue, obviously, is pretty simple. And now I'm going to check. What do we always do when we do a check? We write both equations. Good. So 2x minus 5y equals 3, and y equals x minus 3. And I'm going to put in the 4 and the 1 for x and y. So I get 2 times 4, 4 for x. What do I put in for the y? 1, good, equals 3. What's 2 times 4? 8. What's 5 times 1? 5. So 8 minus 5 is 3. Yes, it is. 3 equals 3. Check. And then the last part is 1 equals 4 minus 3, 1 equals 1, check. And that's my substitution technique, okay? Now, is there any question about the substitution technique? Yes?
Can you say that it was x equals? Would you do the same thing?
Yeah, you just put it in for x, exactly. Okay? Any other questions? Now I'm going to show you what a couple of people tried to do. Rena tried to do this. I think maybe Kayla tried to do this. Who got the 85 on the quiz? Someone got an 85. You did. You tried to do this. This was very good. Very slick. I was very proud of you when you tried to do this. Now, I'll show you what she did. Ready? 2x minus 5y is 3. Oh, I want to do this. 2x minus 5y is 3. And then y equals x minus 3. You can do this. This works. You can look at this bottom one and say, hey, let me do minus x to both sides. Then I get negative x plus y equals negative 3. And then 2x minus 5y equals 3. Now they're lined up. So what technique could you use now? Remember, they're all lined up. What do you use when everything's lined up? Elimination. So if you really like the elimination technique and you're good at it, you can always manipulate one of these two equations until you create two equations that are lined up. Then you can use your elimination technique. Okay? All right, guys, watch the video tomorrow. Very, very, very important. Hasta la vista, vaya con Dios, toodaloo, ta-ta, arrivederci, smile a lot, ciao, arrivederci, adios amigos y amigas, cheerio, ta-ta, toodaloo, see ya, sayonara, garusharus.